the one of the characteristics of human beings, I don't care who you are, you're American, a Buddhist, everybody has a conscience. And everybody's conscience is universal in its makeup, what goes into that consciousness, that thing we call conscience. The atheist, he cannot deny that he has a conscience. And what it does, when you really explore the depth of all of the meaning, what does conscience mean? You will finally come to the conclusion that it relates to what God is. See, God, and what we know about Him, there's a lot of mystery about concepts that sometimes it runs through our mind. We kind of have a little thought here and there. But when you study the concept of a conscience, you're dealing on a human level. So that's why I'm saying it's an argument outside the evidence that's presented in the Bible. When you're talking to a lot of people, the Bible is not evidence. But one thing that is evidence is your conscience, and that's universal. It's the same everywhere. So here again, you can explore this thing I could talk for 2 or 3 hours. In other words, when you really understand how the conscience of mankind is made up, it tells you what's right and wrong. It tells you a lot of things that you believe, and you don't even know whether or not you believe it or not. See, I'm giving you an argument outside the biblical evidence, and it's something. If you ever run onto an atheist, and here's what I would ask one of them. They say there's not a God. I saw one on TV last night. He was pretty smart. Here's what I would ask him. I would say, sir, explain to me what the conscience is. Every man is endowed with a conscience. What is that? So you see, it would become an endless dissertation. In other words, you'd find no end to it, Gail. And the more you got into it, the more you would see how that it helps you to get a vision of the mystery of God Himself, the mystery of Christ. How Christ saves, dying on the cross. We don't understand all of it. It is almost beyond our comprehensions. But we make a start whenever we begin to explore our conscience. I'm not talking about consciousness. I'm talking about your conscience. It's the inner man that every man has. So when he follows the dictates of his conscience, and if he's honest, that's one thing it will do. Your conscience will finally lead you to an appreciation that one of the most noteworthy characteristics of mankind is to be honest. Everybody would say you got to be honest. That's what your conscience tells you. Now, and that when you're honest, then you open up. Everything becomes it becomes what would you call it? In other words, it becomes when you're honest, you can get to the bottom of things. See, that's one of the problems nowadays. People talk about a lot of things, but they're really not honest. You see, this is one of the failures and the faults of human beings. Human beings are not honest, and what they do, they suppress their conscience. That's why that people do things they shouldn't do. That's why they rob banks, because they've suppressed their conscience. But if they'll be honest and not suppress that conscience, they'll know that robbing a bank is wrong. And they'll also know that God is merciful, and that God requires a submission on the part of every human being, and that submission is displayed in that sinner's prayer. Lord, be merciful. You just can't get around that. Your conscience tells you that. Mm-hmm. So here again, I'm talking kind of in circles, but to me, it's I don't think you'll find many books on that. It would be a really a subject that would deserve a lot of research. I think you could really open up an avenue, and I've never read anything about it other than what I see in the Bible and what I've observed in human nature. See, human nature, I've never met anybody that didn't have a conscience. And I've talked to all kinds of people from all kinds of religions, but their conscience is the same as mine, exactly the same as mine. There's no difference in it whatsoever. It's just that you don't have occasion sometimes to do these things in depth. See, we don't really spend a lot of time trying to explore the depth of things. And when, like in this Oprah, she was denying it about the Christ and all that, and you never would convince her. But where you would convince her, if you could get to the depth of the meaning of the concept of a conscience, she'd open her little eyes. She'd begin to see things in that are true. Anyway, that's kind of all I can say right now, Gil. But let me hear it and see what I said.